Red Sparrow is directed by Francis Lawrence and stars Jennifer Lawrence and Joel Edgerton, and this screening came with a personal note from the director. He asked press to please respect the various twists and turns in this film and not reveal any details. And despite the fact that I usually try to do that anyway with my reviews, I'm going to be super vague with this plot. Jennifer Lawrence plays a Russian ballerina who gets recruited to a Sparrow school, a place that trains operatives to use their body as a weapon, and she is eventually assigned various targets that conflict with Joel Edgerton's agenda. That's all I'm going to say. It's based off of a book written by Jason Matthews, a former CIA operative himself. And so there's some authenticity to the story where you feel like you're not quite watching a Hollywoodized version of these types of events. But at the same time, this film is definitely a movie. It's really trying to appeal to those old-fashioned Cold War thrillers. There's a handful of scenes that I might loosely refer to as action sequences, but for the most part, this is a film about intrigue. It's a lead character that you never really understand fully. Her decisions are very unclear. Purposely, you're supposed to feel like you don't really know what's going on in her head. And with Red Sparrow and Last Year's Mother, Lawrence continues to prove that she's a fearless actress. There's very little that she will not do on screen. This film has a lot of incredibly awkward scenes and very cringe-inducing moments that are going to make a lot of people wince. Some people actually got up and left from the screening because there are some really brutal elements and very, very sexually disturbing elements that I was pretty surprised to see. Our current climate politically is going to have some difficulties with some scenes. I'm positive of it. There will probably be various boycotts of this film, even though the things that are depicted are not glorified, nor are they supported. It's definitely shown to be a life that's horrific and sad, and it's not like they're saying, hey, men and women who use their bodies to get things done in the field and to get information, this is a great thing. It's shown to be a terrible life that no one really wants to lead. And it doesn't keep it from being any less awkward. There's a lot of very embarrassing and strange scenes in this film, and I can kind of commend the director, Francis Lawrence, and especially Jennifer Lawrence and all the other actors for doing these scenes and acting them with fearlessness. That being said, this film was a bit of a mixed bag for me. As a story, it has interest and I was compelled at times, but it's so long and its lead character so confusing that it's difficult to really know what type of movie you're watching. And it does kind of place you in the middle of a political intrigue situation where you're unclear of what's happening, and it can be one of many different ways. But at the same time, that makes it for a difficult viewing because the tone drastically changes so much because our lead character also does. And since we don't really know what she's feeling and we are definitely kept on the outside of her mind, it makes it hard to relate to her. You sort of feel for her because she's put in these awkward and strange scenarios that you know isn't fun for her. But it's difficult to really understand how she got there because the start of the film, she's a Russian ballerina, clearly a very good one, just based off of the audience that has come to see her performance. Obviously, she's very successful. The transition from that to what she becomes is so abrupt, even though it does span a period of time. I just didn't feel myself understanding or supporting her decisions, nor the decisions of her superiors in this agency that choose to recruit her. It's a very strange family situation that you can kind of look at and say, okay, maybe this is nepotism, but at the same time, it's hard to understand how so many other people would have said, yes, let's recruit this ballerina to do these horrific things. Joel Edgerton is one of my favorites involving filmmaking, acting. He's a really good director. If you haven't seen The Gift, check it out. And I really like him quite a bit as an actor, and he's very good here. Mary Louise Parker has a scene that was oddly even more awkward than some of the sexual scenarios, even though her scene isn't even remotely sexual. I didn't think it fit in the film. It's a very long movie that has a lot of scenes that are necessary to propel certain elements of the plot along, but where in other films those scenes would be shorter and quicker to make you just recognize what the screenwriter needs you to know. This film draws out all of those scenes like it's this big epic moment when it's really just a small, tiny, little scene that you have to know to understand things at the end. Despite the film's tone being a mixed bag and the storyline being a little difficult to follow, there are some very praiseworthy elements. I've already mentioned the performances, but James Newton Howard has composed one of his best scores in a very long time. I've been a fan of his for quite some time, and his music here is gorgeous. There are certain scenes, particularly the opening, like the first 10 minutes of the movie, that feel so enthralling, and a lot of it has to do with his score. Red Sparrow is a frustrating film. I would say I liked about half of it, and the other half I had a difficult time grasping. And not because it was confusing. It's just that the film almost builds a fence around itself until the final moments, where you can't really get in. You're just watching something that looks and sounds beautiful. I'm going to give Red Sparrow a C+. I admire the fact that Hollywood has made a film with this type of story and with these types of scenes. It will likely offend a lot of people and make some people walk out just like at my screening, but at the same time, it just wasn't quite a home run from a story perspective. Guys, thank you very much, as always, for watching. As always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.